right, so if you're tuning in, then you probably are missing all of the quadrilateral information in your geometry book. So I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly and just make sure that we hit the high points. So remember, a quadrilateral is a four-sided shape, and it has four sides and four vertices. And so when we think about a quadrilateral, we think about a closed figure with four sides and four vertices. And we have lots of quadrilaterals that we talk about. We talk about some very specialized quadrilaterals in 5th grade. So if you turn the page, the first specialized quadrilateral that we talk about in 5th grade is called the trapezoid. The trapezoid is a special quadrilateral because not only is it a polygon, which means it's a closed shape, and a quadrilateral, which means it has four sides and four vertices, but a trapezoid has one set of parallel sides. Let me fix my focus here just real quick so you can see that clearly. And so when we think about the trapezoid, we think about it being different because most quadrilaterals have two pairs of parallel sides, but the trapezoid only has one set of parallel sides. And so our classic representation of a trapezoid is this, because when you were in 1st grade, or maybe even when you were in kindergarten and 2nd grade, you pulled out the pattern blocks, and the red pattern block that you were looking at was called a trapezoid. And so it had this figure. This is what I would call your classic trapezoid figure. But you need to remember that there are other trapezoid figures that are out there. So in your notes, what I'd like you to do is draw a large L. And then I would like you to make another straight line like this, and then make a diagonal line, kind of like a roof. And if you think about what a trapezoid is, what classifies a shape as a trapezoid, then you know it's a polygon, so it's closed, it's quadrilateral, 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, 4 vertices. But one set of parallel lines means that it has one set of parallel lines, like this figure right here. Now, sometimes when we see a trapezoid, we see it turned on its side. And so now I'm actually going to draw two horizontal parallel lines, and one is going to be slightly longer than the other. And I'm going to make that slant this direction, and then I'm going to close it like this. So that would be another example of a trapezoid. When I think about this, I think about like the monorail at Disney World. So you have your top and your bottom parallel lines here. Okay? And another reason why they like to throw this figure in there as a trapezoid, because when I look at all the angles that are represented in this trapezoid, I see two right angles, I see an obtuse angle, and then I see an acute angle. So all angles are actually represented in this particular trapezoid. Okay? Turn the page. Moving on to our next quadrilateral, that would be our parallelogram. A parallelogram is a specialized quadrilateral because it has opposite sides that are equal and congruent. I'm sorry, that word should not be equal. That should be parallel and congruent. And so it has two pairs of parallel sides. And so when I look at the shapes over to the right, I see a rectangle, and a rectangle is a specialized quadrilateral that has the rectangle name, but it is also considered a parallelogram because it is a polygon, it is a quadrilateral, and it has parallel and opposite sides are parallel and they're congruent, and it has those two pairs of parallel sides. The same thing for a square. A square is a specialized quadrilateral, and it is considered a polygon because it's closed, a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides, but it also has those parallel and congruent sides, opposite sides, and 2 pairs of parallel sides. So it is also considered a parallelogram. And then right down here, this shape is what I would call your classic parallelogram, because it really does follow the things that are over here to the right. It is a polygon because it's closed. It's a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides. Opposite sides are parallel and congruent, and it has 2 pairs of parallel sides. So thinking about a parallelogram, that's what we have. So turn the page. So our next specialized quadrilateral is called the rectangle. And so when we think about a rectangle, we want to think about all the previous things. A rectangle is a polygon because it's closed. It is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides and 4 vertices. It is considered a parallelogram because it has opposite sides that are equal and parallel. But what makes a rectangle a specialized name is because it has 4 right angles. 4 right angles. So the 4 right angles give it that specialized name called rectangle. Okay? Turn the page. Our next quadrilateral is the rhombus. And so lots of boys and girls like to think that they like to tell me about a rhombus, but they're not quite sure what exactly the details are of a rhombus. So let's go through them. So a rhombus is considered a polygon because it is closed. It is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides. It is a parallelogram because opposite sides are equal and congruent. And what makes a rhombus so special is the fact that all 4 sides are congruent. So its special attribute is that 4 sides are congruent. That is why a square can be a rhombus because 4 sides are congruent. And then we have our classic pictures of the rhombus here. It almost looks like a square that somebody kind of sat on. Okay? So we have 2 defining questions down here at the bottom that we need to answer. And the first one is, can a rhombus be a rectangle? Well, a rhombus can a rhombus be a rectangle? And that answer would be no. Because in order to be a rectangle, you have to have those 4 right angles. So your answer there is no. And our second question is, can a rhombus be a square? And the answer to that is yes. Because to be a rhombus, you have to have 4 equal sides, and a square has 4 equal sides. Yes, because 4 equal sides. All right. And turning the page to our last specialized quadrilateral, that would be our square. Our square is a very unique, very detailed quadrilateral because it is a polygon, it is a quadrilateral, and it is a parallelogram. But when I think about what makes a square and so special is it has to have both the attributes of the rhombus and the rectangle. So when I think about a rhombus, all 4 sides are congruent. And when I think about a rectangle, it has 4 right angles. And so that is why a square is what a square is. And so if we think about the attributes of a square, we can say, so a square can be classified as a rectangle and a rhombus, and this is true. If we are looking at a square, we can always go back and say, well, the square has 4 equal sides, so we can call it a rhombus. We can also look at it and say, well, a square has 4 right angles, so we can call it a rectangle. All right. Make sure you have those notes in your book.